Welcome to the Behind the Racquet Pod, the podcast taking you behind the racket with today's top tennis players and biggest issues facing the sport.
Behind the Racquet is a community to give fans and players in the world of tennis the opportunity to open up like they have never done before.
Visit BehindTheRacquet.com for the latest stories, merch, as well as direct links to all of the latest podcasts. It can also be found on iTunes, Google Play, Pandora, Stitcher, and wherever you find your podcasts. Download the episodes and make sure to leave a review.
And we want you to be a part of the conversation. Find me at Noah Rubin 33 or Mike at Mike C Tennis on all forms of social media. You can also learn more at BehindTheRacquet.com or MikeCTennis.com.
Special thanks to my sponsor, New Balance. Visit their latest shoes and styles at NewBalance.com and learn more about their program of giving back at #NBGivesBack.
You can also help support the podcast by visiting patreon.com/BehindTheRacquetPod and receive rewards from our travels around the world. And now,
this has been something that's been a long time coming to get our guest here on the podcast, and I think it's kind of an important one considering we've got a young man in Noah Rubin who's labeled as Jew today on our video podcast. I just going to throw that out there, but Noah Rubin starting his comeback here in the next couple of months, and this is a perfect time to bring in our current guest. I'm going to read off some of the accomplishments. 33 in the world in juniors. Got 100 plus wins in his career at UCLA. Career high around 350. Coach of okay, I'm going to give you 350. Coach of Marcos Giron for a bit of time, and now I don't know if this is the thing you're most proud of, but current world number 858. It's Karue Sell, founder of mytennishq.com as well. Karue, welcome to the podcast. This has been a long time coming.
This, right? Like, I feel like we should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah, no, definitely overdue.
Yeah, it's like overdue.
Yeah, beyond.
We got two guys on the comeback right here, so it's actually pretty.
It's a little nauseating to think about, yeah.
Right.
But I mean, Mike, you were not a part of our last interaction. We were at the On Tennis event a few weeks ago, where we actually got to speak about a decent amount of it. Like, I mean, went from everything from like how we are just like feeling the ball in practice and what that meant, and then like the coaching side of things and how that has like kind of changed our perspective. I think that was kind of the most interesting thing. But thankfully, you weren't there to ruin that interaction in that event. But it was Karue Sell is probably one of the I hold in high esteem, probably one of the most interesting tennis players,
Same.
Not only for Tennis HQ, but you know, just how he sees the sport and kind of his way through it, and the fact that you are competing again now. Fucking love it.
You just can't let go of it. It's like we just can't let go. It's like it's such a tough thing. It's like let go. Don't try to get better anymore. Don't try to like maybe. It's an interesting thing. I mean, we all kind of have to forge our own sort of ways of doing this, and again, unless you're just this spectacular tennis player that can just get through everything so fast, it's a difficult sport to stay on it, and then you leave for a little bit, and then you start doing a few other things. You start seeing the game a little bit different, start learning something here, learning something there, and you almost like don't have to play as much to feel like you are better, and it's like this weird sort of thing. And I think in sport we never have the time to like have time off. Just like we're always just like in the rat race, and sometimes you take a year and a half away from it, just playing, but like not really away, not really like trying to get better, and you just naturally get better. You're not so caught up in this, and it's an interesting thing that happens, and I guess a lot of people don't get to experience it. You're so in it for a long time, but yeah, just figuring out a way to like kind of keep playing some tennis, I guess.
I'll start where we are kind of currently. I mean, you do a lot, but what was that kind of switch for you? I know what it was for me, but you were coaching obviously more Marcos. I was doing some juniors, but what was that switch for you to say, okay, I love Marcos, I love helping him, but I need some time for myself. Like, I'm not done here.
Yeah, I think just in general, like I thought the entire year, just kind of working on like little things myself, not even worrying about like I'm going to compete, just like, you're trying to find edges for a guy who's top 60 in the world. And you know how it is, the edges there are so small, right? So, between, we're working together, we spend maybe a little time like with some other coaches and you're learning some stuff and you're like, oh, I could kind of apply this in my own game here. And if I do that well at a lower level, I'm sure I'll get rewarded even more than maybe Marcos does at that level. And you start, between, me and Max, look kind of, he would do like some weeks, I'll do some weeks. I, went and play a couple UTR events nearby just because, why not? Like, let's go play some matches, see what happens. And just kind of feeling the competition, almost like more mature to compete and just not so like, mental, just like, hey, if I apply this and I do this, I play well. And if I don't, I maybe lose and that's it. And just be very objective about it. Because when you know how it is, you're off the court. I mean, you see so much, right? Like it could be Marcos, it could be anybody, it could be a junior. You're like, oh God, why'd you do that? Why'd you hit there? Why'd you do this? And then you almost like learn by just observing. And then like when you're playing, you start making better decisions. And, after playing a few matches, a few tournaments, like not pro events, but playing really good ball, I was like, like I still got it in me, whatever level I'm going to get, I don't care. But in terms of ranking, but level wise, I was like, the level's pretty high. So why not? And then there's that thing of like, I'm turning 30 and it's like, this is it. Like I have this last maybe 5 years of super high level tennis and then that's it. So why not? With my tennis HQ and creating everything, just like let it fly and go,
I think, we have different objectives. Like you said, you've kind of come in with no want necessarily ranking wise, no real, objectives, let's say. But, how is that kind of switched now playing a few events? How is that mentality?
Yes. Winning an event as well, Noah.
I think like over time. The objective really is, I think when I played back in the day, I got to the futures like in 6 months, I was kind of basically in the challenger ranking, getting there in the challenger ranking. But once I got to challengers, I always like sort of like, ooh, like it's like it's this higher level and you kind of like put everyone on a pedestal for whatever reason. And obviously at the time, I think challengers were like, it was tricky. You had like a lot of guys coming through the challengers that were going to make, top 30, top 20, top 10. But in general, like I always felt like I shied away from that, even though like it's not like guys are like that much better. Like you'll be able to compete as long as you just give yourself the time to do it. So that would be like my goal really to get myself into challenger rankings first and then give myself like, just like the mental thing of it's just playing another tennis match. These guys aren't necessarily that much better. Like trust yourself a little bit more. So that's kind of like the main objective. Like I'm not going to just play to play. If I can get into like some slam qualities, like in the next, I don't know, year or so, like that would be great. And so, but that's sort of like the personal challenge to get to that level. Because once you're in challengers, I mean, you can have a couple runs and all of a sudden like you might be
anybody's
there.
Game. Yeah.
Anybody's game. But just getting there and giving myself that chance is mainly the goal.
All right. So you've had 2 breaks in your career.
Mm-hmm.
Right out of college, you took a year off and then you decided to stop a couple of years ago. Obviously started My Tennis HQ during that time before coming back. I guess I'm interested in the reasons in both instances, why you stopped, why you went away from the game. And then what has ultimately just brought you back to that.
I think the first sort of like break after school was more like, you're 22, you're about, you're leaving college. You don't really have any, no financial like support in any way. I'm from Brazil. Like no one's going to give me anything. Like now that I've been gone for a long time and not playing any futures. And so like, I think at the time I was honestly at that point a little tired of tennis. Just like it had been basically that's what you do since you're 9 or, just competing, like actually competing since you're 9. So I was just kind of over it. I was like, I'm just kind of freaking over it. So that was basically it. And I gave it a shot at the college thing, college coaching, and didn't really think it was for me. And that still that year, just kind of like playing a lot with the guys and staying in shape and competitive. And then I wanted to give it a go. And then I played for a little while. I think I did fairly well for that first year and a half. But financially, it was so difficult. I think that first part of it, like, was just there's other things, but financially, you're just so stressed out all the time. It's like, you're in LA and you have to like maybe coach a little bit. You're never really all in because you just worry about the next credit card payment. And it just got to a point where it's like in 19, remember, they switched to the transition tour. And that was sort of like a nail in the coffin kind of situation for me, because I was like, I don't have the time to bullshit around in this thing where there's no ranking points anymore for futures. And like, what is happening? I'm basically having to start from scratch. I'm 500 in the world, but I have to start from scratch because I don't have a ranking for Challenger. I don't have a rank like the ITF ranking. And so that just kind of pushed me over the edge. You start kind of coaching and like being around, just making some money and like living almost like a normal like life that you're like, man, I have to be like, realistically, you have to be like maybe 150 in the world to make what a coach makes, like if you're working full time. And I kind of got lucky with certain like having like really, if you've worked with juniors, like if you have like this one kid that is just playing all the time, and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, like it's kind of wild. So they just kind of pushed me to that direction. And then weirdly, like a lot of things, like just, the Naomi thing happened, my tennis HQ thing happened. I was able to just do so many other things in tennis that were actually kind of fun and exciting and got me like maybe a taste of like the high level, whatever it is. And what got me to learn a little bit more about the game with this coach, with that person. So I was like just doing everything and it was kind of fun. And then, throughout, I still feel like I was getting better just because of all the learning and all that stuff. And so, it kind of brought me back one more time.
Yeah, no, I'm curious for you, and obviously the coaching aspect, you get that kind of competition, but My Tennis HQ is like a way to be a part of tennis without that. Do you feel like you need the competitive factor in tennis to enjoy it? Or do you think you can kind of live, let's say you stopped a year from now, 2 years from now, do you think you can enjoy tennis without the coaching, the competition aspect?
The competition is, I'm not that competitive as a coach. I feel like on the tour, there's a lot of like coach ego, like guys like thinking maybe they're a little more important than they actually are. But the playing is very difficult for me. I actually find that, even with My Tennis HQ, most of the ideas for videos will come from like me playing matches and myself trying to get better, and then being like, oh, I sort of figured this out. How can I explain it to you now in a maybe lower level, but that still relates to people? So the playing part of it and me still trying to get better, that's something that's going to be difficult to maybe let go in the future, because like even with My Tennis HQ, like I worry about sometimes like I don't want to become the sort of like the tennis pro from a club that is just coming up with like crazy solutions for things. And like we're using all this crap to try to get better, because we sort of see it a little bit different from playing at a very high level. So I think that's always going to stay. Even as I sort of age, is like, okay, how do I maintain my level as I get maybe like older in my 40s and 45s, 50s? It's still probably going to play a big role into, I'd say, how I coach and how my career goes from there. So the competition part is not like a crazy, it's like craving, but it's just like testing yourself. And we all know how that is. It's hard to let go.
Karue, this is a two-part question. Number one, are you surprised at how large My Tennis HQ has gotten? And then the second part of that, we all know at this stage, it's constant. You have to constantly be putting things out to hit the algorithm to just make sure you're constantly in people's feeds so that you can continue to grow and obviously grow revenue as well. How are you going to find the time to do that adequately and do it well while still being on the road a little bit more full time?
I'm definitely like surprised by the reach and by how quickly we have continued to grow. Like we really battled to get to that 100K, but we're already at like a 115 after a few months, and it's just kind of like going. And that it's a bit surprising. I don't really know like why, like what the appeal totally is. Like I try to be as honest as I can, and there's stuff that I put out that maybe a year or two after I'm like, I don't know if I really still believe in that, but like it's just the way it is. You're just sort of like, I'm continuing to learn, and I'm just sort of like, it's almost like my own diary of like where I'm at that point with my tennis, and I'm trying to like obviously grow it and continue to grow, and it's a fun just thing for me to like. It's the one thing that I'd say like I can create myself. It's like I think about whatever the lesson, the video, and I have to go from what is in my head to then a final video, and it's actually a fun thing to do, even though it's sometimes a bit stressful. But two, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that out next year with being on the road, because I've said it before in the channel multiple times. I have a really hard time filming when I'm on the road, because it's like, you know how it is, Noah. Like you're playing these events, and your mind, even if you're just kind of like for the most of the day, you don't do anything. You're just basically on your phone or watching Netflix. But your brain power is still like very consumed by like, fuck, I have a match. I need to make sure everything is this way or that way. And it's difficult to just be like, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to set a camera here, I'm going to do this now, I'm going to do that now. So that's going to be a little tricky. I hopefully I can figure out a way to maybe have someone filming some events, because if someone comes to like one event, there's a lot of content that you can have from like 1 week. But I'm a bit worried, because I still, a lot of the stuff that I do on the channel and that really does well is lessons. And when I'm on the road, I'm definitely not going to do lessons. So that the channel's probably going to take a hit on that a little bit. The algorithm sometimes doesn't reward you if you're posting more of a vlog kind of thing, or it's a really tricky game that you have to play. But I'm just going to trust that I'll figure out as I go. I'm not going to like over stress about it as we go along. Like if I can get more matches, film more matches, stuff like that, I think people really want to watch matches. So I think that will be the first thing. Just
yeah. I mean, the video component, I mean, until if anybody could do it, it's definitely you. I still don't believe it's possible, because and it's funny because I just got a memory come up. I tried vlogging that. I mean, I wanted to do it. I have one video from preseason with Mackie McDonald and Ty Kwiatkowski in like this barbecue place in Lake Nona. And that was the first one. And I was like, holy shit, like just that video, I was exhausted. Like I was carrying the stuff and I looked like an idiot. And I'm like, no, never again. And I stopped. I put it all away, never touched again. So, yeah, I mean, I do believe deep down, if you are competing, it is almost impossible to really do what you want to do on the vlogging. But yeah, I mean, how quickly, behind the racket, I could speak to a little bit, but it's obviously my baby, my passion project, but it turned into a job to some effect. Obviously everything does. And, how quickly is My Tennis HQ kind of becoming that for you? And you're just kind of looking for the next step. And where are you kind of looking at it 5 years from now? Like, what's the end goal with it?
The end goal, I have no idea. The funny part is like, I think with Tennis HQ is, as opportunities just kind of come, like they just kind of happen, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like I did this one podcast and some people reached out that like, on production companies, and they're like, oh, maybe we can make it into a TV show. And I'm in LA. There's a lot of that stuff. So I go to a lot of lunches that people overpromise stuff, but underdeliver, but it's fine. Like, but in general, yeah, man, the vlogging part is difficult. Like I wouldn't recommend it to most like tennis players. If you're there as a competitor, I say on the channel, like I go as a tennis player, not as a YouTuber to events. I want to fucking win the event. I don't want to like make a great video. So that's always a tricky part. But Tennis HQ, what I've enjoyed now that we've gotten to, I guess this size, I think there's fun like business opportunities that come along, and I'm interested in this. My end goal is to never have to work for anybody. That's my goal. Like, I don't want to have a boss. I want to be the boss of my own thing, even if I'm making less money, but to always not have final say, but it's not have anyone have like just commend me to where I want to go. I want to be able to have my own time, right? Like I dictate what I do with my time. And if that's working more, that's fine. But I'm the one choosing that. But there's been fun, business stuff like, what I did with Toro Line with my strings, and it's actually doing really well. And people are playing and enjoying it. And even if it sounds like for some people are like, oh, this is gimmicky. They're just, like getting a YouTuber and slapping their name. But like, I'm playing with the string and I'm enjoying playing with the string, and I'm enjoying seeing people, finding it. So if it's going to be, making more physical products, if it's going to eventually, shift, continue to do the YouTube is my baby, and that's always going to be like my thing. I do this thing, but like if there's, higher level production things that I can do every once in a while, or I can almost consult and things like that. If someone wants to do another tennis documentary that doesn't suck, I could, I would like to help with that, so I think there's just opportunities that might come along, and that part excites me. We're also working, we have a website called evencourt.com, and that's kind of like what we're trying to do. We're trying to fix the whole like people finding people to play and people finding coaches. I think there's a few players in that area right now, but I don't think anyone's doing that great. And we're coming from like a player perspective, coach perspective. So we're working on that, trying to create this like big platform where, be a hub of players. You find players in your location, and you can, easily schedule hits. You can find me as a coach, and you can schedule me virtually or in person, and just figuring it out, like what sticks, what doesn't stick, what are issues in tennis that maybe we see that hopefully we can try to fix. And that part excites me. I don't know what's going to work, what's not, but I think it's an exciting thing, aside from just playing,
You and our interactions over the last couple of years, I remember talking to you at the U.S. Open. I guess it's been 2 years now, when we were watching Marcos play a little bit of doubles. You have now had really the opportunity, with your experience with Naomi over the last couple of years, your experience with Marcos, your playing experience at the Challenger and the Futures level. You and I have interacted a lot, talking just about how we're dropping the ball in terms of helping to promote and grow this sport. I guess I'm interested in, we could go on this topic for a very long time, but how do you think Noah, how can you guys use what you guys are doing, your platforms, your very large platforms at this stage, to help grow the sport at the Future, at the Challenger level, so there's more interest, there's more eyes, and theoretically more money and exposure at those lower levels?
Karue, you take it. Come on, you're the guest.
I mean, it's definitely. I think you can have like this big dreams of like almost like an utopian way of everything working, but that's never going to happen. So I try to like, I just posted a match versus a college player, like top 5 college players, a 3-hour match, a 50-minute video, which is never great to post a 50-minute video, but it's doing fairly well. People are watching. It's like, oh my God, the level is great and is entertaining and stuff like that. It's like that in itself gives it, gives that level a little bit of an extra, like, 100,000 eyeballs, hopefully. But I don't truly believe that like we were going to be able to fix maybe Futures as much as I think Futures just kind of have to get through it. And it's tough, but that's always going to be it. It's just like, for me, it's how can you get, a guy, like, Noah, you're top 100, you get to top 100?
Nah, 120.
120. Okay. So you're basically there, but you played a lot of like, qualities of slams and main draws of slams and stuff like that. It's like, I think those guys in the 250 need to be making a ton more money, right? The 50K that the first round gets for main draw should be 50K for first round of Qs. Like, cause if you can put 250 guys making like that kind of money, at least like, man, if I'm in qualities of slams and I'm making like 200K a year out of that already like, really makes a difference. So I don't know exactly the answer. I just know that like the ATP, I think the entities just do such a bad job with. I mean, I posted recently, like their YouTube is ridiculous. Like, what are you doing with your YouTube? Like, no one cares about what these people like eat. You know, film them practice. Be all access. Be like, look, tennis players are very like, ooh, I don't want to like kind of like give like what I'm doing in practice, stuff like that. The tour almost needs to be like, fuck it. We're gonna film everything. We're gonna film like in F1. Let's film everything. Let's film court level sets that you guys are practicing in tournaments. They posted one of Novak and Carlos, like court level like practice, and people were like, whoa, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Right? You can do that with more guys. You can do that with guys that are 50, guys that are 100, 150. You can really like just pull the curtains up and like let's all access these guys. The Challenger Tour is doing a little better job, I think, with their social media and stuff. They're actually kind of doing well, but still, like, I don't know the answer. I just know that from my end, like, it's weird. I find it sometimes weird that so many people care about me playing futures, right, versus maybe watching two dudes who are 65 in the world battle, right? It's a weird thing, and so that shows me that there's something off. But I don't know exactly how to fix it, but it shows me there's something off. And obviously, I've given these people a lot of my time, and I get it, but still, it's a tricky thing.
Yeah. I mean, people want access. People want to know what they don't know, you know,
Right.
and I think that's been proven. Yes, tennis players suck at that. They want to hide. They want to not be a part of it. Yes, Mike.
So to interrupt, though,
Right.
Karue's giving them exactly that. Like, he is taking them through his personal journey and showing this is what I'm doing to get better. This is how I'm growing. And then you have a personal investment.
I mean,
in
it started
player.
with,
Like,
speaking behind the racket, as arrogant as I may be to want to be the face or the pioneer, I think, naive at times that I was going to be the answer, and that was like the beginning was I was going to be the answer to fixing all these problems, where seeing some things kind of transpire, I'm happy to be the reason or a part of the reason or 1% why the ball started rolling, why the first domino went down. And I think that's what we can hope for. I mean, as we both grow and, have obviously kind of in this ecosystem, we can all help each other because it's so fucking small, especially in the world of tennis.
It's so small.
So small. So I think if we can be that ball, maybe it's larger in 5 years from now. That's all we can really hope for is like, okay, that happened because Karue Sell has been putting out videos for 5 years and working his ass off. There's a reason that, these people are inspired to do X, Y, and Z. And Noah's talking about mental health. There's a reason that this is, now more players are more open to speaking about it. So it's just like being that first domino is really all you can hope to be a part of, because the answer, especially in the world of tennis, is far more complicated and not changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
I think for sure there's going to be like people coming up, who are going to do a much better job in the social media thing to promote themselves and make videos and stuff like that. Like some younger guys that maybe a lot of people focus maybe on shorter form stuff, but you have, Jules Marie, who's kind of came back and now doing YouTube and is doing, I can't watch his stuff because it's in French, but I can see it's very well documented. It's someone that is doing for him, so he's able to really focus on his matches. And people are, in France are probably loving this, right? You have the British kid Felix, who I've met, who people are crazy invested in his, his journey to get his one ATP point, and that was tough, man. That kid, like, was losing qualities and like really struggling to get that point. It took him months, and obviously, the comment section for the most part is supportive, but like the bad stuff is going to really affect you, right? Like it bothers the shit out of me. I need to let it go, a lot of stuff, but like I sometimes, like, I'm so snappy, with comments and stuff like that, because people just say like outrageous stuff. But man, but like he's getting like crazy amounts of views in his videos, and he got his point, and people are super pumped, and people are just like, okay, like, well, this kid is giving me this like thing like every week, is entertaining. I'm enjoying it. And whatever the number he gets to, he's actually doing something for tennis that like maybe a lot of people aren't. And so
most, even top 50 players. Yeah,
exactly. And for me, like I was telling like my friends, I was like, this year, I think I am actually going to try, because you can get competitive about that stuff too. Like, oh, he's getting more views or he's getting more subscribers, whatever it is. But I'm actually trying to like, okay, can I help like some of these like smaller creators maybe grow? I just had Trey, who has the Winners Only channel, and he's just started playing like a year ago, and he's doing his own thing, and it's like its own kind of like tennis content. But I'm like, it's good that we have it. Like, it just let it fly, right? So he came on the channel. I gave him a shout out on the channel because he spent a week filming me and all that stuff. And his video got the video when he posted it got a good amount of views for the size, and he's slowly growing. And, you know, I'm working with someone like for my fitness who's only doing fitness stuff. And he's doing great stuff, but fitness is so not sexy, right? Like tennis fitness is so specific. It's so not sexy, right? But he's doing amazing stuff. So like, can I maybe help him grow a little bit? And I think like that's sort of going to be my 2024 like thing. I have my tennis HQ. It's growing. It's fine. It's going to keep on track as long as I keep putting content out. But if the ecosystem gets bigger, kind of like in golf, you know, it's just so much better. In golf, you have, you know, Rory McIlroy and some dudes like YouTube channel, and they're both almost as popular as each other. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing, like a Rick Shields or someone in golf that is like huge. So it's just like the ecosystem is small. And I think when the top players try to do something like it's a bit gimmicky, you know, they hire a production company and they make all this stuff. Yeah. It's not organic. It looks nice, but it doesn't give me any emotional connection to what's happening. So everyone's going to have to figure out how to create that emotional connection. Otherwise, nothing works. Just cool content, just cool slow motion shots don't work. It doesn't matter, you know?
Well, I want to let both of you go. You guys, Karue, you're playing in
it's a YouTube tournament.
A YouTube tournament. I don't even know how to. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so you're playing Winston.
Winston is doing great stuff.
A little bit of credit.
He's going to reach out to you, Noah, at some point, I'm sure. And try to get you on the channel. But he was the same thing. I mean, he when I met him, he had like 7,000 subscribers, and we did like a fun sort of like 4.5 versus pro, and he kind of blew up, and then his channel starts blowing up, and he keeps putting content out. All of a sudden, he's getting high level players in there, and people are just getting this sort of. People like the raw stuff, you know, like it's just a camera. I just played a set with Moreno, and he's doing crazy well just because like it was just a one set, court level. Let's have some fun. Boom! People were like, "Whoa, this is great!" So it can be as simple as that, you know.
And you're also going to be there with the legend, the YouTube legend Klay Thompson. I mean that collection of clips from Champaign a few years ago I still get random comments about that. I mean, it was just I owe that man. One very strong drink at some point.
His app Improve. He's basically the one like funding me right now to play. Yeah. So shout out Clay. So Improve is going to put out a live event. So it's going to be like me versus Brad Klon, Clay versus Marcos, and then whoever wins plays another set. So that'll be fun. That'll be and it's going to be live on my channel. It's going to be fun. So we'll make some announcements in the next couple of days, but it's going to be really cool. Next Friday, just like an event in Beverly Hills, very Klay Thompson event, you know, like just a nice Beverly Hills vibe. It's going to be fun.
Well, I just wanted to say personally, I want to see you back at some challengers soon, so we can chirp a little bit here.
Beforehand's getting better.
I'm just remarkably. Yeah, I know. I'm just. I remember that comment. Don't you worry.
It was the right comment. It was the right comment.
Like right back here.
You were making a 100% analytical comment. You know what I mean? So I'll take it. And,
but I just am so impressed with what you've been able to do over the last 5 years. I just have the utmost admiration for the work you've put in, and I just, regardless of what happens in between the lines on a court, you have my utmost admiration and respect.
Thank you, Mike. I'm gonna need to come like just. We'll film like a practice match, but you're going to commentate the practice match. That is the dream, right?
Anytime. That's the peak. That's right? The peak right there.
We just commentated like one set. Oh my God. I'm going to write that down in my notes here. Appreciate it, man.
I love it. Karue, thank
Thanks,
you so
guys.
much.
Appreciate
And
it.
we'll talk
you.
soon.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Karue. That was
guys.
great.
Karue,
that
thank
was
you.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me know. I'm,
Yeah.
I don't have a podcast, but I go on a lot of podcasts, so I'm down.
Yeah, I know. Santa
That's a
Barbara
thing?
Challenger in February.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Indian Wells stuff, right?
February.
I'm playing a UTR event first
Yeah.
week of the
In LA.
in LA in Long Beach.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm just going to play Ithaca
Okay.
and Wesley Chapel. It's 25. I'm not going to get in Challenger, so why waste my time?
Yeah.
Let's go get some
Yeah.
points. First,
Yeah. Santa
Yeah.
Barbara might be worth a phone call to
Mhm.
somebody because I think it's a 50.
yeah.
So yeah,
What are
I
you
know
playing,
Noah.
Noah? What's your
thinks that
team?
it's going to be essentially
Looking
the
at
same.
Portugal, sneak into qualies of a challenger, and then, I mean, I made some good connections, but I don't think they'll give me a wild card to the next week qualies, which I won't get into. So maybe 2 futures in England, or take a week off after Portugal and come back and play Ithaca.
I was looking at I was just looking at the schedule. There, Portugal has like a lot of 25s in February, so I might
In
just,
February,
Yeah, I
yeah.
might
Portugal,
just
I have
go
to look
there.
at where they are, but it's pretty easy to get there. It's pretty easy to stay there. So, and just
Yeah.
text me if I'm trying to match my schedule up with a few guys, and it's a little bit tricky, but I don't know what you're like an 8. So you're right around like Patrick Maloney, who I'm trying to match up the schedule with a little bit. So let's
We'll
make
figure
it
something
easier
out.
on all of
Yeah.
us and get some videos out.
yeah, for sure. That was fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Sick,
Karue, thank
guys.
you so much. Michael,
right.
see ya.
We'll chat
All right,
soon.
man.
Take care.